I hit him like.
We are here with, it's Vertices Fitness, and so I'm not going to try and explain it because I'm going to screw it up totally. Tell us what you guys do here. Tell us the premise behind it and what's going on.
Okay, Vertices Fitness is a fitness studio that specializes in pole, aerial. Aerial is silks, hammocks, yoga, aerial yoga, so you're floating in the air on fabric. And then pole, it's more like pole fitness, kind of like gymnastics. We have Zumba here on the nights. We have yoga, and we also have other cardio classes. So it's basically a fitness studio that isn't like a regular gym. We specialize in unique sports, so that when you come in, you're always learning something new. It's always fun, and it's something cool to do with your friends.
Yeah, which makes it more fun, right? And so now that we got the like the pitch part of this, right? We want to tell everybody a little bit about the business. Tell me why. Like what, you said you started when you were really young, like what, tell me a little bit about that part.
I started pole at 14 because of my mother, which is really interesting, but she got a pole at the house, and being young, I started doing a bunch of monkey stuff on there, and going upside down and all this crazy stuff, so she decided to bring me into the studio so I would learn how to do it safely. So she brought me in, and the first thing I do is I go upside down, and the teacher at the studio, she's like, oh my gosh, we have to get her started.
Yeah.
So they start teaching me pole, and then from there, within 6 months, I go and compete in Georgia for a competition. And then from there, I've just been competing ever since, progressing on. And then we moved here, and I needed a place to train.
Right.
So there was a studio before here, it was called Fit Pole, but we took over about 6 months ago. And so now we run the studio, and we're adding on to it.
Sweet, so this is awesome. So where are you guys from? You're not from here? Is that what I just picked up?
I'm originally from here, but we lived overseas for many years. I came back around to Dallas.
Okay.
When she first was introduced to pole, it was in Dallas.
Gotcha.
And because of the job market, Dad ended up out here with the job, so we ended up coming out here.
Yeah, interesting. That makes sense to me, like, because this, like, seeing something like this isn't normal for this area. And we've actually talked about that a lot. Like, there's a lot of new businesses that are popping up that, like, in my mind, because I like grew up here my whole life, like, don't belong here. You know what I mean? That's just the feeling behind it. But this is really, really cool. Because again, like we were talking about, people think there's nothing to do here, right? But there's, like, this is really interesting to me. Like, I know a lot of people who would be really, really enjoy this. So disconnect this for me, because I know a lot of people are thinking that, right? This disconnect between what pole dancing is versus what this is, right? Because there's a difference.
There's a big difference. Right. Pole dancing, how people normally see it, is more sensual, and they're not doing it as a sport. Pole sport, how we do it, is very much like gymnastics. You do a whole bunch of tricks on the pole, you go upside down. In competitions, I just competed in December in Italy. That giant competition, you have a giant rule book that you have to follow. Yeah. You have a certain routine you have to follow. You have to use both spinner pole, it spins around, and static pole. Separately, you have separate strength moves and flexibility moves. Yeah. And they'll give you a whole book of different moves and their point range, just like gymnastics. So
I mean, this is a sport, basically, right? And which is totally different. And then, so, all right, now tell me a little bit about, like, the physical part of this, because we talked a little bit before we got set up, right? Like, it's hard.
It's very hard.
Which, I don't know, I guess, like, I'm going to try this at some point. Is that what you want to do? Oh my goodness.
Okay. Gonna try it. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, I'll try it. I'm gonna embarrass myself, but okay. So tell me about that, like about the physical side of this. What was really intriguing to me, you were like, there's a bunch of like ripped guys doing this, like, I want to be that.
It's very rigorous. It's not like, I'm going to say running or weights where you have to work a different day each day to get all your body to look good. Pole, you're using your whole body all the time. Right. Say you want to go upside down, you have to use your arms to lift yourself up. You have to use your ab muscles. You have to use your legs to hold on. It's everything at once. Right. And that's what I really like about it, is that I get a good work out on everything, as well as it improves my flexibility, shoulder flexibility and legs and all of that, because you have to be flexible to do new moves. Right. Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's a lot like, it's a lot like swimming, right? Like when you're swimming, you're like activating your whole body, and I hear that a lot, and that makes sense because you're like suspended in air
course you'd have to use your, especially like with core muscles, I'm sure, right? Like that's huge for this, which is like where I need some assistance. Man, that's really cool to me. So tell me more about like, why did you guys want, I know you said you wanted like to open up some place to train, but like why did you end up making this a business? What was the point? Like why was that a thing? You know what I mean?
I've been teaching. I taught at this pole studio before this one, and they weren't doing too well. They only had pole, and it being Midland, Odessa here, people aren't really used to seeing a pole studio and understanding it's for fitness.
Right.
That's just why we added in so many other things.
Right.
To see it more as a multi-fitness thing.
Which is why the logo is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like Propel, it's not just pole, it's a bunch of different stuff.
Right.
So I was teaching, been teaching well over a year, probably closer to 2 years when we finally moved. And I was in the middle of training for the Italian competition. So they closed down and it was, well, where am I going to train? I had this giant competition overseas that I have to run. I'm already a teacher and we want to stay here for a while.
Right.
So being a teacher, I really like to see people get their goals and try something new and out of their boundaries. It's also really cool to see shy girls come in here or shy people.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like not used to doing pole or anything this crazy, even the aerial in the back.
Yeah.
And so they'll come in, they'll try it, and they'll start actually having fun with it and making friends and figuring out how to be comfortable with their body as well as gaining strength and being more physically active.
That's interesting to me. So this is now 2 or 3 times now where we've had we've talked to someone who is in like we talked to a physical trainer that was like a what's the word I'm looking for? He does like unconventional physical training for him, and when we started talking to him, we ended up going into like the mental aspects of it, right? And the same thing happened with the jiu-jitsu information today, was this physical thing and the discipline that come behind that, and then eventually it leads to the mental thing. And what you said was interesting because that's 3 times now, where now they're coming in, there's a physical aspect to it, but now you're talking about self-esteem being a big part of it, which I think is really interesting and important because it's something that I guess a lot of people don't really think about, that like your physical health is very much tied into like your mental health.
Well, yeah, if you're not confident in yourself, you're never going to push yourself to the next level because you're not confident enough to go there. Yep. You want to stay in your comfort zone. So I think pole pushes people out there to try new things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So it's really interesting because like you have, how old are you?
17.
Good night. That is absurd to me. So man, think like, what was I doing at 17? Not this. Like it's crazy to me. Like you're super consumed by this. You absolutely love what you're doing, which is why the business is working. Right?
Yes.
You just enjoy it. This is a conversation we have because again, like we're not into this realm. Like what we do is we deal with businesses and we deal with the marketing side of this. It is so funny to me how many business owners we meet who won't last because they don't love what they're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of crap that comes along with owning a business, right?
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of stuff that people don't think about that happens behind the scenes. Like you're talking about the finances and what's going on with like permits and stuff that you got to get. People don't realize that all that stuff. And whenever you go into a business with it's an activity you love and you really enjoy doing it, you're willing to do that all this other stuff because this means that much to you. Okay. And it bothers me that there's so many people that go into businesses for money. Right?
Yeah.
Because like, let's be real. Like, yeah, of course it's a business, money's involved, but that's not why you're doing it.
No, actually, and I'll be honest with you, we actually started and said, hey, our goal is to just break even. We don't need to make a lot of money.
Yep.
We just want a studio where we can better ourselves.
Yes.
And she loves it because she wasn't doing pole before we had the studio.
Yeah.
And now she's having to do pole. She's instructing pole. She teaches intro to pole, and she teaches a little bit of aerial.
Yeah.
And she's learning how to be strong again and get fit again. And she's 46, which I'm sorry, but to get confident in yourself at that age where you're already past, your kids are out of the house and all this.
Yep.
But you're confident in yourself to come and try this new thing and build your strength back up again. Like once you're over a certain age, people start thinking, oh, I can't really get fit again.
They think it to themselves.
Yes. And she's pushing herself to the next level every day, and she keeps coming back, and she keeps learning new moves.
It kind of ties into exactly what I was telling you about earlier. Like you're 17, like you're super young, right? Like what you're doing is insane to me, because like what's going to happen to your life in the next 5 years? Like just thinking about that blows my mind, because in 5 years you're going to be what, 21, 22?
22.
Good night. Like, what was I doing? Even when I was 22, like what was I doing with my life? And so you think about that for a moment, and you think like you're going to be super young in 5 years. You're still going to be super young in the next 5 years. Like in 20, 30 years from now, you're still going to be young. Like there's still a lot of time to get this done. And I agree with you totally that there's so many people that when they cross a certain age limit, sometimes it's 30. People panic about being 30, not realizing that you've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with your physical fitness. Like, why would you ever give up on that? Like that's insane to me, because I mean, physical versus tying with the mental health, like it's super important. You're 30, 40, 50, doesn't matter. Like your health is important. So how long have y'all been open now again? Did I miss that?
5 to 6 months.
Super young still. And how many students do you have? Is it going well? Like how does that look like?
We have some, we have about 30 members right now. It goes up and down, you know how it goes.
Of course.
I mean, it's just when summer hit, we had a drop because everybody's going on holiday.
Right.
And then, we're slowly picking back up again. We do teach children, we do teach men, we do teach, there are men that can't keep up with what we're doing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So,
we're going to find that out real quick.
So it's not just women. People
Yeah.
think the sport is just for women, it's not.
Yeah.
We do have some men that come in strictly for the yoga, for the aerial yoga. So we have some pretty traditional yogis that will get back there and play on those hammocks and like, oh, I can do that move.
Yeah.
And now they can. Pole, there are some amazing male polers in the world. And
sure.
we are really trying to target getting competitors to represent West Texas in the international level for pole.
Yeah.
So that's one of our biggest goals, is to get minors and to get men. We have women here that are already competing. We have a handful of women. We have a couple of guys that are considering competing, coming up at a competition in Dallas in August. And then I've got a couple of minors that are looking to compete in Dallas.
So now I'm kind of going into like my advice mode on this. Like, what are you guys doing to get the word out? Because now I'm just diving.
So we do the Facebook, we do the Instagram, we do have a performance troupe. So we do have an aerial rig that we will take out and perform for events.
Right.
We were just at Juneteenth in the park.
Oh,
this
okay,
past
yeah.
weekend. We're looking at trying to get into the July Fandango, the Friday, the Independence Day celebrations, and Christmas time when we first opened, we're actually in the parade.
Yeah.
We made the mistake of doing a pole in the parade, and we did it as the North Pole, but people take
connotation,
it wrong,
yeah, of course.
rather than this is a sport. So we have the aerial rig, which is doing the aerial lyra, which is a big metal hoop. We do the aerial silks and the aerial hammocks when we go out and perform.
Yeah. Here's an idea, because this is just my brain goes weird places. You guys have an Instagram, like how I reached out to y'all on Instagram, right? So think about this for a moment. There are people in the area who have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 followers on Instagram. What if you reached out to them, said, if you come in, like get a free class, right? If you make a post about us on Instagram, and see what happens, because then 2,000 or 3,000 people see that post, right? It doesn't cost you anything. You know what I mean? You see how that works out?
One of the things we wanted to do is also invite all these strong men that are doing athletic competitions and
People
whatnot.
at Total Nutrition or other nutrition stores.
You guys should hook up with them.
We actually are.
Yeah.
We're actually holding our grand opening in July. July 8th is our scheduled grand opening. We just barely started promoting it day before yesterday.
Nice.
So we are going to actually have an event. We're having an event, not this weekend, but the following weekend with Total Nutrition. We're going to put our aerial rig out there in front of their store and get out and about in front of their store.
Nice.
And they're going to come here for our grand opening. We do have a radio station coming for the live event for the grand opening, a food truck. We're going to try to get this whole parking lot alive for that Saturday morning.
That's good. That's all good stuff. Are y'all doing, so here's a thought, whenever that happens, y'all should look into, just a thought, where is that event going to be at? Here?
Here.
Okay, so you can get onto, everybody knows what Snapchat is, right?
Yes.
Ever seen Snapchat? Little kids, like younger kids, absolutely love Snapchat. They'll jump on it like crazy. One of the things you can actually do is put a filter, geofilter, like create the filter and put it around an event area, right?
Ah.
And then like
And
all
they
the
drive
little
by?
kids, they'll drive by and the kids will drive by and they'll take their selfies, and if the filter's cool or neat looking, they'll take a picture with it, and then all their friends see the filter that you made that says sponsored by Vertices Fitness,
smart.
right? This is the crazy part. It costs $5.
Oh, wow.
So this is something that we talk about a lot with a lot of businesses, especially with younger businesses, because I think a lot of us we consumed with the idea that television and radio is where we need to be because it's been around for so long.
We don't do any television. We don't even watch television.
Nobody does.
We don't watch television.
It's crazy to me.
And the
Yeah.
radio is, I have a family member that has the radio, which is why.
Yeah, and that so stuff like that makes sense when you think about, but it's a weird thing that happens with businesses is that they start with Facebook because it's cheap. It's inexpensive to run a Facebook page, right? It literally costs you nothing if you're willing to do it.
Right.
But then something happens along the line as they get bigger and bigger. Then all of a sudden they feel like they've upgraded and they need to go do a TV ad, right? But not understanding that, like, think about how you just finished growing. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff you guys are doing on with the social stuff, and like I reached out to you on Instagram. I found you on Instagram. People are going to do that as you keep posting stuff and get more and more active. And it's just really interesting to me watching that happen. But this is really, really cool because this is something people would share. And like
Yeah.
you're saying, this becomes a real social event for them to come on and like learn new moves and
every
stuff
time
together.
you nail a new move, the first thing you want to do is post it.
I'm sure. we just had a weird conversation with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy about this, with Brad, saying that people would come in, and then it gets real weird mental. Like people are coming in, they'll take a picture, like they hand their phone to their friend, like, hey, take a picture of me like hitting the punching bag, because they want to show their friends, right? It's super unhealthy for people to think that way, like we got to show my friends what I'm doing, but it's how businesses grow.
Right.
It's how that stuff happens. As people are starting to share stuff, there's so some of the there's a dance studio that my girlfriend owns in Odessa, and that's some of the stuff they've done before. Like they have a selfie wall for the little kids, and the little kids go and like take pictures of themselves. And it's so little things like that this is really, really neat.
Yeah.
That's shareable.
Yeah,
but
it's
anyway,
no accident that that's where it is.
Yeah.
There's 2 poles there.
it's all on purpose, right? This is very, very cool to me.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, what is, if you could ask one question, this is putting you on the spot, if you could ask one question to the Midland, Odessa area, or anybody, what would that question be?
Oh, all right. I gotta think about it for a second.
That's why I like it, put people on the spot.
What are you afraid of? Like,
Ooh, that's a good one.
why
Yeah.
are they afraid of coming here and
Yeah.
afraid of being judged, or afraid of being in front of people, or afraid of getting fit?
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Yep.
You only have one life.
And that's good. That's so good to me. This is like, you and I mesh well together because that's exactly right. That's the way I look at everything. Like, you got one life at this. Like, why not just have fun with it? Just go do stuff.
Right.
This is something that's really cool to me. So, are you gonna show us what you got?
I can show you.